This is the Amp Hour Podcast. Released February 26th, 2023. Episode 621. The Magic of Calipers.
Welcome to the Amp Hour. I'm Dave Jones from the EEV blog.
And I'm Chris Gamble of Contextual Electronics.
I am going to defend myself, damn it.
Oh, what?
You think it's undefendable what I've done?
No. No. You have a particular way of doing things. Usually,
No.
my big problem was watching this whole thing unfold.
Yeah, you watched it live. Okay.
I watched part of it live, and
Yep.
and Dave was trying to get, it was your iOS app, is that right, for the multimeter?
Yes. And I
Pushed it
wanted to
into
upload it to GitHub
GitLab.
so that people could have it.
Yeah. You were basically crowdsourcing from your audience, like your secondary channel stream,
Yep.
and people were very helpful, but there was a lag.
Live chat is hard. Getting
It's
live
tough.
help is
Yeah,
hard
yeah.
because there's it can be up to like a 30-second lag between
Yeah, exactly.
people.
Exactly.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
And
Now,
you want to defend yourself. Go for it.
yes, I will defend
you-
myself. The first thing
Go
you
for it.
said there is plural. I have a particular way of doing things. Now, here is the crux of it, right? What I wanted to do was not things. It was not a process. It was one thing. I wanted to do one task and then never touch it again. Okay? All I wanted to do was I had existing code, right? An existing project. All I wanted to do at the request of somebody on my forum is put it on my GitHub account so that other people could then use their GitHub and branch it and do whatever and use it, right?
Yeah, there it is.
I want to share it with the world.
Fork
Right?
it and clone it and all that
Yep,
good
yep.
stuff.
Which they've already done, right? That's
Great.
all I wanted to do. Incredibly simple, one-off. And this is my defense, a one-off task, okay? I am not versioning controlled. I'm not doing a project using the GUI interface on GitHub.
Sure,
All I'm doing is
You're using
one
it as
task.
file storage, effectively. Yeah.
But I could have just dumped it to a Dropbox somewhere, right? But
Yeah.
everyone uses GitHub, right? Everyone uses Git, right?
But they use it for revision control, so
Yep.
not that important. You don't want to give a Dropbox thing because
No, it's silly. And I wanted to have it on because I do have a GitHub account, right? So I wanted to put it on my
Yeah,
actually, I started off putting it on the GitLab account, which is a different system to GitHub. But anyway, we'll get into that. So all I wanted to do was one task, right? And you got to remember, I don't use Git, right?
Right.
I don't use Git.
Yep.
And I'd love to learn Git. Okay, that's a fine thing to do. I'd love to learn it. But for this one task that I simply wanted to spend a couple of minutes doing, I did not want to learn Git for that. Okay?
Yeah.
So GitHub has a drag and drop interface. All you have to do is create the repository, drag the files over, done. It's literally like tens of seconds of work.
Yeah.
But the problem was it had a 100 file limit and I had 800 files, right?
Right.
So I went, I'll upload it to my GitLab account. And GitLab didn't let you do that either. So, I was getting frustrated. Like, how do I do more than 100 files, right? So, no one, I tried on Twitter, asked on Twitter, no one could explain it to me properly, right? So I did a live show and then people eventually, were trying to help me out on a live show. And we eventually got it, right? After like 45 minutes or something, you would quit by this time. You would quit in frustration, right? By watching this. And as it turns out, I followed everyone's instructions down to the T and it didn't work, right? Because GitLab.
Right. You were doing it over HTTPS instead of SSH.
Well,
you didn't have a token on your machine.
Yeah. GitLab, and I do have a GitLab account, and that's where my existing multimeter code is for my Android. That's why I wanted to put my Apple code on there as well. And it didn't work because it required a secure connection.
It required a HTTPS, it required a token connection.
It required secure keys, right? It requires secure keys. At that point, I just gave up. and I
Right.
just manually uploaded batches of files to GitHub.
Mm.
But as it turns out, right, all these GitHub experts, thank you very much for helping me. It's awesome, by the way. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. But not one of them could tell me that you can easily do it on GitLab by simply opening up the GUI IDE interface and dragging your files over. Done. 2 seconds. Somebody emailed me after
Yeah,
this
nobody
fact.
really uses it like that. That's
Exactly.
why.
And a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
people have attacked me, or some people have attacked me on Twitter over this, saying, oh, only idiots use the GUI interface.
Oh, well,
It's
that's
like,
not right. No, no,
right?
no.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Right. And this is why I'm defending myself, because I wanted to do
Sure.
one task. Sure,
I
if I
gotcha.
was going to work on the project from GitHub, I'd learn the Git commands and do it properly. Right. But I didn't want to do that. I'm not working on this project.
Sure,
I
sure.
just wanted to upload it. So can you accept my
Yep.
defense that I had one task to do and I wanted it to take a trivial amount of time?
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
And there would be other people like me who have that requirement.
Let me give you some of my GitHub history, because I started in a very similar place to you, actually, on this stuff.
Mm.
I really, really struggled. And everybody told me not to use the GitHub desktop, which was actually pretty underdeveloped at the time. So it was kind of like
Quite a few people told me to use that.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, and that is kind of like an
I
in
didn't want to
between.
download I didn't want to download a program to do it.
Yeah,
I'm
totally,
going,
totally.
well, the web interface should work,
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I think they've gotten better, actually. Now we know that there is this
Right.
web interface. That's better for that sort of thing. I think some of it is kind of mindset shift too. And it's like I was used to I would think about like uploading like an IDE, or like working from an IDE like sample project or something like that, and there would just be this kind of this huge chunk of files, like hundreds of files, like you're talking about, and really that doesn't work great. And I think also because sometimes you get the build directory involved, and then it's like, so then every time you do another build, all those files look different to the system. But it's like,
right, of
but
course.
you don't want to upload those.
Yes,
time
you don't want the build file. Can't you just exclude the build folders?
You can't. Yeah, I didn't know how to do that though. That's the thing.
Okay,
So I just saying, like, the growing pains of like learning this sort of system. And then another thing that I really struggled with when I started doing Zephyr stuff back when I was doing my ABC board was I was like, do I, Zephyr is this massive like download, like gigabytes. And so I had that on my computer.
Hideously complex stuff, right? It's
Yeah,
like an
really,
FPGA kind of a tool.
well, like complex, and then it also pulls in a lot of like vendor libraries, so like
vendor stuff, and
yeah, exactly. So like when you download like the default, when you start from like Zephyr, you're getting all of the like every supported platform pretty much, like STM32, unless you like go in and really saying like, oh, actually I only want this one chip platform, which is a pretty complex task to go and do. You'll get all of the microchip stuff, all the STM stuff,
even if
all
you
the
don't
Nordic
want it.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And you just don't know it's there. And then I had this huge directory I was working out of a sample folder, like you do, like you kind of showed in that RISC-V video, right? You're working on the sample folder.
Yeah, right.
That's the right way to do it. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh, okay, well now I want to like commit these changes, but do I commit the whole thing? And then it was like the entire SDK, and that's like 2 gigabytes. And I was like, this can't be right. And I just remember like being like waiting for like hours for this thing to upload. And then like, I don't own that code. I shouldn't have that on my GitHub. Right. And so like, just kind of like that, just the kind of that understanding of that learning process of like, of how to do it. The biggest thing for me was like having someone like I could watch do it. That was super important for me.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what I'm trying to say, Dave, is, if you want to look over my shoulder at some point, I'll show you how to write really bad code.
Thank you.
Really,
awesome.
Really bad code.
That's what I strive to do, is be a bad coder. Yeah. And it's
just good enough to get over the hump. That's what we shoot for here at the Amp Hour.
See, people can think I don't appreciate version control. I do. I worked it out here. I used to use version control daily. We use Tortoise SVN though, which, there's quite a lot of people who actually like that Tortoise SVN interface. Sure. But
Subversion is a little different. It's in terms of like it kind of
Subversion is the name for it.
Yeah, that's right. That's the SVN part. Yeah, it's a little different, but Git's like, it's weird at the beginning. I think.
Well, I don't think it's that weird.
It over time.
I don't. I can totally understand it. But when I simply wanted to do a task that should have taken like seconds.
Have you done Git rebase, Dave? Because
Oh,
I've been
okay.
doing that for months, and I have no idea what it does still.
Right. No, I have no idea what a rebase is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
thing. Like,
right.
that's just there's like all these like it feels like magic. It's just like these magic incantations, but
Yeah,
like, I'm starting to actually get it.
yeah.
But like, at the beginning, it's just like, what does this even mean? And like the
Right.
idea of like, a local head versus the remote, and it's
Yeah.
just
To be fair, there are quite a few people who actually on Twitter, they actually came in defense and said, look, to be honest, Git is not for noobs or for people who just use it casually or something like that. It's
yeah. I think that's
you
that's
know,
that's what I'm
yeah.
saying here as well. I think it is tough. It's a tough learning curve, and especially because I think the common suggestion is like go straight to the command line, and some people aren't comfortable in the command line either.
Well, I can certainly do the command line. I do quite a few command line things. I've got,
Oh, okay,
command line
sure,
scripts that do my video encoding and do other
sure,
stuff.
sure,
It's
sure.
like,
Yeah,
it isn't foreign to me. It's just that when you want to do a simple task once
yeah,
and, and it bites you in the
yeah,
ass, it's like, Anyway, it wasn't Git that bit me in the ass. It was the GUI. It was the GUI
yeah,
version, which simply had a 100 file limit.
yeah.
So,
That stinks. Yeah.
as like,
Yeah, I'm guessing
yeah,
they must do that to like prevent like abuse or something. I don't know.
abuse, yeah, something like that. But
Could
like,
be, or
sure,
maybe they don't
like
want to
100 is
load down their
really low.
servers.
Like just as you said, like, or when you include lots of, when you got tons of includes and everything, a simple project like this one app,
Mm,
my app has 880 files in it. It's like,
yep, yep.
and that doesn't include any, Mac OS crap subdirectories
Yeah,
either.
right, right.
That's just like the code with
Yep,
all of its includes and whatnot. So yeah,
yep.
so I think 100's too few. So I don't know what the rationale is there.
I also remember from the video that you were like looking at like what are all these files here? Some of it was when you were uploading the .git folder. That's like a kind of
Yes,
hidden
yes, that
folder.
was it. Yeah, because
Yeah,
another issue is that I didn't actually technically start from scratch because there was an existing .git folder in there or
right,
something
right,
weird like that was messing it up, and all
right.
sorts of factors contributed to make it look frustrating and caused you to storm out in disgust
No,
from
not
watching
discuss. I just had to.
it.
Yeah, so like that's where, when you think about it, like there's like a local version and a remote version, and it tracks like the changes that when you do a commit, it changes, it says like, oh, Dave changed, the copyright date or something like that, right? And
Right,
that's
I
a
made a
small change.
change. Yep.
But like that then becomes an actual atomic change within your local, that in that .git folder. And then
Yeah,
you think about all the changes you might do over time, those really start to add up in terms of the number of, they're small files, but there's a lot of them. And then it
there's a
keeps
lot
all
of
that
them, and
history.
you can end up with
You can roll
thousands of
back the
files.
entire history.
Yeah,
So like if you wrote an entire project, and you kept that history, or say you even cloned a project from a remote repository to your computer, you can actually go back and say, oh, Dave did a commit on January 13th of 2023,
yeah,
and the commit number is, ABC 1234556, whatever. I can go and say, go to that commit number and create a new branch from that. And
yep.
all of your code is there. It's
Yeah,
really,
I know.
that's
Yeah,
pretty interesting.
it's
Yeah.
very cool. Yes, I love version
Yeah.
control. It's great.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Which is why I wanted to give my code instead of just putting it on a Dropbox somewhere. I wanted to
Yeah.
do it properly and put it on GitHub.
Sure. Sure.
You know,
What is
It's-
what does the app do? I actually don't know. What does the app do? Is just controlling the multimeter?
it just controls the multimeter. Yeah, but
Oh, cool.
my app apparently has vanished from the Apple Store, and I have no idea why.
Oh,
It's
that's weird.
vanished. But apparently
Yeah.
there is a third party company that actually wrote an app for my meter, which I didn't know about, which is great.
Oh,
So
that's
yeah.
cool.
So at least there is still an app there until I can figure out how to
Yeah.
somehow get it back on the Apple Store. But I don't know. Maybe I'm not paying my dues or something. I can't
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
because I didn't do that. That was David too who did that. He's
Yeah.
like handled all the
Sure.
Apple app and stuff. He's the one who wrote it, uploaded
Yep.
and registered it, and did all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I have no idea how it works. I have no idea how any of this Apple app verification or whatnot works. I assume, it's, I don't know. Do you have to like continually update them to stay update with the latest Apple version? Otherwise, it just like drops
I've
you off
never
the Apple
done
Store. I got no idea.
anything with app stores, honestly. I don't know.
Eh,
It's interesting because I've started to look into some of that. There's like these different app platforms and stuff like that where you can kind of have kind of quick start apps there. But even then, I've never really done like the Bluetooth modes either. Like, so that's
Oh,
where you see a lot of that stuff. It's
yeah,
like
we've
talking to
talked about
Bluetooth.
this before,
Yeah.
but the combination of doing Bluetooth development and
Mhm.
Apple and app development is the most horrendous experience.
Yeah.
possible. You've got, yeah. It's just
I
awful.
mean, yeah, pick your poison, right? I mean, like, is
Oh,
it either that or deal with cell companies or deal with Wi-Fi or,
yeah.
like if you're going to be connected, it's like it's. I was actually just talking to someone about that the other day, where it is, when you think about like, hardware people, when they think about Bluetooth, it's like the interface, the internet effectively is the phone, right? The phone is a very powerful device at this point. It's basically a Linux computer almost always. Apple and Android
Yep.
are Linux computers, and they, then are that they're almost always
Is
talking
Apple still a
HTTP.
Linux computer? Doesn't
Yeah,
Apple
that's
run
right.
Apple iOS or
It's
whatever?
iOS, but that's based on Unix,
Oh, is it? Oh,
I
okay.
believe.
Right.
Oh, I might be wrong about that. Am I wrong about that? I
Well,
thought that was
maybe it
based on
was
Unix.
way back. Maybe it's not anymore. I
Yeah.
have no idea. So,
Oh, Unix-like. That's what at least
Unix
says.
like. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, actually, oh, that's interesting because, so the stuff that goes on the laptops is definitely Unix derived. Unix Lite based on Darwin, which is
It's
BSD.
based on Darwin. Yeah, I'm reading it now. Yeah,
Yeah.
based on
Okay.
Darwin, whatever that is, which is a Unix
Way above
spin-off.
my head. That's above my
Ah,
pay grade. That's for
Darwin
sure.
BSD. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is Berkeley software distribution.
Oh, interesting.
Darwin operating system. Okay. So it's based on the Darwin operating system. That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
But like just the idea of then of like, so now even if you were doing Bluetooth, right, you're kind of handing these packets to the phone at that point, and then you're like, the app developer will take care of it at that point, like, and it's like that's a very different thing. Like a lot of the stuff I'm doing these days is, in some cases, like the thread stuff I do, I actually have a IPv6 address. Like, so like these little Bluetoothy devices,
Yep.
they are going through a border router, it's called, but that actually assigns it an IPv6 address. So in theory, it's addressable from the broader internet.
Yes.
You have to go through this router, but it is an addressable thing versus like, as far as I understand it, I think there's some way you can do it in Bluetooth, but the standard way is that, a Bluetooth device, if you have a little Fitbit watch talking through your phone, it doesn't have an IP address.
No,
it has a local address for your phone.
You could maybe somehow map it or something.
Like bridge it
I
or
don't know,
cross,
some bridge
maybe.
or something. But I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
but,
not.
But like they're not built for that sort of thing.
Yeah,
right.
You can't directly address it, and you would have to use IP6 because IP4 you can't do because there's not enough IP4 addresses. Right. That's the 192 dot. That's the dot.
Just the non-hex type stuff. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not sure why. I think it is because the preparation for all those addresses, but there's no like subnetting or anything like that either, right? If you wanted to have like,
well, you can do ports and stuff, like you can do like port mapping and stuff.
Well, you think about like you have
the exact terminology.
You have a Wi-Fi address. So you say you had like an ESP32. That thing can have an IP address, but usually it's going to have like a local IP address handed over from your router. So your router has
exactly
like
your router maps a local one, which is not a well, and then you can port that through to the global network so that you can have other people access it. So that's when they come to your router IP address, and then they put in a port number, and you can map a port number to the local device. But that's kind of like a roundabout way to do it. So
yeah, I'm gonna be honest. That's outside my realm, but I do know that I do cellular stuff very often. Those are private IP addresses. Those are on the network, but you can't really access them from the broader internet. I've done thread stuff. I don't do Wi-Fi too often. But then you think about like in those cases, like the internet is the internet at that point, right? So if I wanted to go and, ping Google, I can do that from a cellular device. I can actually like send out a ping over the network and it should get to the Google side of things. Whereas like a Bluetooth device, it would still have to go through the phone. The phone is serving up any kind of traffic that way. So yeah. Networks, Dave.
Yeah, I don't know. That's not.
Let me tell you. Speaking of cellular, I'm about 16 days away from leaving for Embedded World, and I'm freaking out a little bit. I'm in demo mode. Yeah, crunch time. I just hand assembled 8 boards tonight.
Oh, nice. Yep.
And I got another 8 to do tomorrow, and I got a lot of testing to do.
These are like stand demos, are they? So that people can play with them?
Yeah. Some of them are going to be like walking around demos. Some of them are going to be stand demos.
Oh, okay. All right.
A lot of 3D printing happening here. Some laser cutting. I'm just like a maker. I'm like a maker space in here, Dave.
Cool bananas.
I have to do some vinyl cutting. I have a vinyl cutter now. Did I tell you that?
No.
Like a sticker
go.
cutter.
Wow.
Those things are super fun.
So it's got one of those blades, right? That sort of like goes around and right.
Yeah. Yep. So it's like basically the blade goes kind of across the x-axis, and then it like pushes the vinyl paper or the vinyl sticker
Yep.
in the wider axis then. And so then when you map that, it basically can do a 2D shape like a circle or
Okay.
piece
Yeah.
of text or whatever.
How does it like
And
stretch the paper material sticker thing?
what do you mean by stretch it?
Because otherwise, like if you don't stretch it, if it just like how do you hold it in place? Otherwise, it'd just tear it or
Oh,
whatever, wouldn't it?
right. Yeah, there are some limits, some lower limits. The thing that moves the vinyl in and out is like a tensioner rod, basically. So it has a
It's
really
a
strong grip.
platen. It's a roller
Oh
platen, is
yeah,
it?
yeah. That's a good way to think about it. Yeah,
Right.
that's right. Yep, yep.
Got it.
And so that has like downward force, and it's got a really strong grip
Yeah.
on the vinyl, and that's what actually makes it. That's what gives it tension,
Yes.
and it's like a known distance across as well.
Right.
But like
Cool.
then it's like super easy to like just drop in an SVG or something like that, and then the limit is just your imagination.
Nice. Yep.
Yeah,
Vinyl cut sticker front panels.
that's exactly what I'm doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I
Right.
have a.
Yep.
I showed you last time. I made a PCB front panel,
Yep. Saw that.
and it's got an e-ink display, some backlight LEDs. I'm doing
Yep.
some vinyl cutter stickers on it. I should mention.
Why an e-ink display over a traditional LCD or OLED?
Yeah, that's a good question. The thought is that it showcases, like, so these are cellular devices, and so the whole thing is on
Low
I2C
power.
bus.
Right.
Yeah, low power, but really, when you think about a lot of like cellular devices, if they're going to survive out in the wild at all, they're
Mm.
going to be mostly shut down all the time.
Yeah.
And with e-ink, when you update the screen and then you shut the whole thing off,
It stays there.
the display still is there,
Magic.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And plus, it's like super crisp. It looks great in like
Yep.
lighting conditions. So yeah, it definitely is a hassle, but like in terms of the updates,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I think e-ink technology is one of the radical game changers in tech. I think, because like just the ability to have a display just stay there with no power is just wow. Mind, yeah, it's
Oh
it's
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
it's a freaking mind blow. Yet we sort of take it for granted now.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, a Kindle, no big deal.
Yeah,
It's been
yeah,
out like
yeah, yeah,
almost
right. It just
15,
stays
20
there.
years at this point. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, low power lasts for like my Kindle lasts
Zero
for.
power. It's literally zero power. It only draws
Yeah.
power when you there's a residual power because it's checking
Yeah,
for
the clock
for
element.
the capacitive
Network.
touchscreen, right?
Right, right.
But apart from that, right? Technically, if you turn it off, it's off, and the image is still the book cover is
Sure,
still there.
sure. Yep.
Like,
Yeah, that's right.
wow.
Yeah, you do
Like,
Kindle
yeah.
for you?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm on mine pretty much every night, and probably
Yeah,
like 20 minutes or so, and I think
yeah.
it goes 30 days, pretty standard.
Oh yeah,
For not a
you
huge
easily
battery,
get a
it's
month's
like
use
crazy.
out of a Kindle. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's
it's
great.
great.
Yep, fantastic.
Yeah, I don't see it on a lot of products. It's still pretty expensive. So like this is a 200 by 200 screen, probably 12 centimeters by 12 centimeters, not like a big screen,
Yeah.
and it's $5.
Yep.
Like not
But when you
cheap.
say expensive, right, you got to remember they use these for disposable things
Yeah.
now. It's just like
Oh, like those
they're
tags in the grocery
talking
store.
about e-ink shipping labels, for goodness sake,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That just a one-off thing goes on a package and then you toss it out. Like, oh no,
I've never
no.
seen that. Have you
Yeah.
seen that? I've never actually seen that.
Well, I've heard talk about it because they're so, apparently cheap in volume if you want like a real simplistic one or something like that. And
Yeah.
they're using them for supermarket like labels, shelf labels now. They've got those.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, that's cool. I think that's a great use of them. And
Yeah.
there's I forget his name, but there's a hacker out there who basically like buys those in bulk and reprograms them because then like,
it's
the
great.
people that sell them for grocery stores are like super cheap.
Yep.
I forget who that is. I'll try
Yeah,
and
when
look
you
that up.
buy them in that
I
sort
know
of
those.
volume, because like one store would need what 10,000
Oh yeah, you
labels
gotta
or
figure
something.
how many
just
SKUs is in a just a large
yeah,
grocery store.
yeah, single store. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great use.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
but at least they're not disposable.
Yeah,
In that
exactly.
case,
Yeah,
so-
the reprogrammable at that point. Yeah, and they have like there's some I forget how they update them. Maybe RFID or something too.
Well, that's the
It's
other
yeah,
thing.
it's cool.
Yes, they do update them via a RFID resonant coil in there. I think that's so. So you come along with the programmer. So there's no battery in there. Come along with the programmer, and it
Yeah, right.
energizes the coil, and then it updates the display. And then once you remove the little handheld programmer thing, it's done.
Yeah.
So and there's the other. I can remember I was working way back when.
Are you saying there's Wireless power, Dave? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there
Sorry.
is
I
wireless power,
couldn't help
and it
myself.
was all the rage, right? Back when
I know.
RFID tags were big, I'm talking probably late 90s, something
Yeah.
like that, all the rage and all the talk at the time was, "Oh, RFID tags will be embedded," and, these disposable RFID tags will be embedded in everything. Every single box that you ship will have an RFID tag on it because
Mm.
these things will be so cheap. These little glass, back when they were like glass sphere kind
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
things, and they'd be taped to you, and they were so cheap.
Mhm.
And they still are, I think, because there's not much in them. There's like a silicon die, there's a little patch antenna, and there's a,
Yeah, it's like chip down kind of thing, like
you
chip
know,
on glass sort of thing.
yeah, yeah, you
Yeah.
can get chip on glass, or you can get the pattern etched on glass as well. But
Mhm.
making glass isn't cheap, and then making silicon dies isn't cheap either. Well, it's cheap, but should you use them in disposable applications where you
Mm.
can use a
Yeah.
piece of paper? It's like,
Right, right, right,
right?
right.
That
Yeah.
is the
Yeah, where's
thing.
the crossover point of, like, the hassle factor of, like, printing up new labels and
Yeah,
yeah. That's
I
a good
don't know.
point.
Yeah.
Before we move on from conference stuff, I wanted to mention again, if people are going to be there, first off, I'd love to meet with you. Let me know. Second off, former guest Saber from PCB Arts will be having an event there. Free tickets. I think there's beer and maybe food,
Oh,
but
there you go.
basically, bring a hack style event on Wednesday night, the 15th of March.
Cool.
So I will have a link to that in the show notes once again. So
What swag do you have on your stand? What freebies?
nothing good.
Oh,
No
come on.
stickers,
Oh,
stickers, handouts.
stickers.
What's
Come on.
Yeah, I know. What
Oh,
I mean, it's not a big stand. I mean, that's the thing.
all
I'm
right.
gonna be at the Zephyr stand. What's your go-to? What is the best ones?
Well, you've got to have lollies. You've got to either have lollies or you've got to have
Oh,
like a PCB ruler or something useful like that. You know?
PCB rulers. That feels like e-waste to me. I know that you are famous for your PCB
Yep.
ruler and DigiKey likes their ruler. I personally, I've seen so many of them. I'm like, these are just getting thrown out. I don't take them ever
Yeah,
anymore. Like I
but
see
you
them
got
in
to
a
make them
bag.
practical. You've got to make them like
Sure,
really
sure.
genuinely
I don't use
useful.
rulers though. You know what I mean? Like I'll
Right.
use a
You don't use rulers.
no. I
Really?
use
I got
calipers
one
if I'm
right in
measuring
front of me.
something.
I got an engineer. I don't have a PCB ruler right in front of me. I've got an proper engineering ruler, you know,
Sure.
like a proper.
For measuring stuff or for the lookup stuff on it? What do you use it
No,
for?
it's an actual ruler.
Oh
It's for
yeah,
measuring stuff, and this is a proper engineering one, and it's
yeah,
stand
yeah.
like it's actually rated for a specific temperature, so it's standard at 25 degrees C. It says on here,
Yeah, that makes
and
sense.
it's made in the United States of America,
Oh,
USA.
nice. It's got metric on it, huh?
Inches on one side, metric on the
Oh, it's
other,
got both.
and it's got
Yeah, yeah.
your different scales. So your weird ass 1/16 of an inch and all that sort of
Oh my
rubbish.
god, yeah. Yep, yep.
Yeah, and then it's got 0.5 mil on the other side.
Mm.
So that's not imperial mil, that's metric mil.
If I'm measuring anything, I'm measuring it with a set of calipers. Anything
Right.
past like 6 inches, I'm probably going to a tape measure.
No. Every time I go to use a bloody pair of calipers, the battery's dead. Like every time.
I have that problem too. Mine also, yeah.
I swear
I
I'm just
think
going to get an old school dial one because it's just like I'm just
that's not a
sick.
bad idea.
Yeah. I think I'll just
Another thing to
re-equip
note is that
my lab.
the cheap ones, they don't have enough downward pressure. So another thing that I do, another tip
Hmm.
for the caliper people out there, slide a piece of paper in underneath the cover so that it kind of pushes between the catch of the cover.
Hmm.
You can't obviously you can't block the battery
Yep.
contact, but or no, actually you can. Sorry, it's only once it gets the rim to the center, right?
It's usually a bottom contact on the PCB and
Yeah,
then a rim
right.
thing. Yeah.
Right. So you
Yeah.
can actually put a piece of paper on top. So you basically like take a
Hmm.
piece of paper, put that in there. If that doesn't work, fold it over once, try
Yep.
again, and fold it over again. And then like that, for me, it was almost always the battery was loose.
Yep.
So try that. See if that helps.
That's another piece of tech that I'm absolutely amazed by. Have you
Yeah.
even the cheapest piece of crap, Shenzhen market $5 digital calipers? They're
Oh yeah.
so super
They're not bad.
accurate, and you can't
Yeah, they're not
trick
bad.
them, right? Right?
Yeah.
Like you stand there trying to trick it by moving it really fast. Oh yeah, I'm going to beat
Yeah.
this thing, and you can't. It's incredible.
I can't. It
What
depends
the
on
hell?
the piece of crap. If it's not the rack and pinion style, so like that is basically my minimum is that it has to be rack and pinion, because if there's like the really really cheap ones where it's basically just like a roller on like a piece of plastic, and like that can skip.
They're all like that because they use a capacitive sensor inside. They use a capacitive surface inside to actually detect So it doesn't matter if it slips. It's the movement of the capacitor and how fast that they can read it and update it.
Oh, maybe I don't know how calipers work.
No,
Okay, I thought it was number of rotations, and that
no,
it
I haven't seen a roller one for ever.
mine's rolling right now, Dave.
Really? Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They do have an external thumb roller on them, but that's not what does the counting. That is not what does the counting. That is just a convenient thumb roller on it. It's got like I'm gonna have to get mine out now.
Was it
Does
in the
mine have a
channel?
thumb on it?
I
Sorry.
don't actually know how this works, I guess. Huh.
Mine's actually got a thumb roller on it, but
Yeah, mine is a thumb roller as well.
yeah, but
Yep.
no, but that is only for your convenience of because with that you
Yeah,
can
for
do
like
sort of like
micro adjustments.
fine
Yeah.
adjustments. Yeah, that
Yeah,
is not
yeah.
how it works. In fact, mine doesn't even make contact. My roller wheel actually pivots off it, so it's only when I push on it does it actually make contact. No, these are actually capacitively sensed.
I feel like there's a video in here, Dave. This is good. You should make a video. Yeah.
I was going to, but then other people have already done it.
Oh, okay. So I should look it
Quite
up.
a few videos out there. If you search for how digital calipers work, there's tons of
Okay,
videos out
caliper
there.
videos.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I should maybe,
Oh, why not?
Anyway, so
It's
I
interesting.
do have
Okay.
a
I didn't know how
decent
that works.
brand one here. I actually paid for a good quality brand. Mine's a iGaming one. iGaging. Mine's an iGaging brand, which is apparently like a more upmarket. Mine's the Easy Cow iGauger, so it's premium quality.
Anyways, so I would use that over. Although I don't know how they work, apparently, I would use a caliper over a ruler most days.
It depends on what you're doing, if you just want to.
I don't know.
If I was ever to get a tattoo, I would go the Adam Savage route and get a ruler tattooed on my forearm.
Oh, yeah. What about saggy skin though?
No, but it's just it's good enough for Australia, right?
Okay.
It's like just,
Jimmy Rogers, who's in the maker scene, actually got resistor color codes, like a rainbow of resistor color codes. It was great.
actual colored tattoo with the color code.
Yeah, like all of the different colors.
Oh,
through.
wow.
Yeah, no, I'll see if I can find a photo. It's great. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, please. We can include that as the thumbnail if we can find the photo.
Hey, we don't know that image. We don't own it. Remember?
Oh, you come on.
God,
But it's
how
easier
about
to
this?
seek
Did you see the thing
forgiveness
about
than it is to seek permission.
the lawsuit up against Midjourney and all the others?
I heard
like a
something
class
about it.
action
I haven't
suit.
looked into
Yeah.
details about,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know it's going to be interesting what happens comes out of it. I don't know. But
Yeah, but then then their defense can be, well, you allow Google to index your images, so
I don't know how the legal stuff's going to work out. It's a copyright claim thing, so it's the U.S. Yeah.
if you're suing us and not suing them, it might be like I don't know, right? I'm not a legal expert, but my spidey sense tells me that it could be something along the lines of patent law. Like if you don't defend your patent, like legally, then you kind of lose the right to do it. That is ingrained in patent law in some aspect. Some
not
aspect
quite correct. Yeah, I know what you mean, but
I know it's not 100%
trademark law
correct.
for sure. That's a trademark law thing.
Sorry, trademark. Yeah. Sorry. Trademark. If you don't defend your trademark, if you let people, if you let people actually abuse your trademark and you don't defend it, that actually makes it harder for you to defend against someone else later. So I think a similar sort of thing might be at play here. Don't quote me on that, but I
don't know if I agree with that. But
yeah, but I think a lawyer could.
One thing that did happen in the U.S. though is that generated images. Then, so like if you generate images from Midjourney, whatever, those cannot be copyrighted in the U.S. right now.
Yes, yes, that's right.
If people want to steal our blog art and spread Ampower blog images around, actually, we would appreciate it.
Which I think is fine, because that's not really the issue. The issue is the artist who owns the original work it's based on. Right? Yeah. I don't think anyone who generates anything using Midjourney is concerned about copyrighting it. Like, I think that very few.
Well, people are like making books out of it. So I've actually talked to my wife about this. Like doing a children's book would be pretty easy. Right?
Yeah, but what? People are going to steal your cover? Well, so be it. But
no. So if you can't enforce copyright, you don't own the characters then, right? So then nobody's going to publish you. So like say I went and made a children's book.
Okay, right.
I talked about with my wife actually. It was like, oh, it'd be fun to like use Midjourney, make a, we've had some ideas for children's books.
Right. You can make a kids book or something.
Read enough of them. Everybody thinks they can do one.
Right.
And I was like, oh yeah, we could do that. But then we could find a publisher. But if you can't copyright generated images, they're not going to invest in the IP. Basically,
Right.
it's not defensible.
Yeah,
So,
but is that their problem? Because they're just the
oh yeah.
publisher of the book. They just sell books. They don't.
Well, what recourses
Really...
do they have then, right? I mean, they basically, most publishers are just IP houses, right? They're
Yeah, true. Yeah, then somebody else could come along and sue you to take down the
yeah. It's
book,
not hard to print a book. It's not hard to
right?
download it to a Kindle, right? I mean, like you
Right.
can download the EPUB, right? And if it was broadly put on the internet and you didn't have any recourse against it, you couldn't sue the person that had put it on a
Mm,
website and everybody downloaded it. So, yeah,
yeah.
I don't think publishers would go for it.
Right.
Um,
I think you
yeah,
might be right. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
it's too bad.
Yeah. Well. Wow. Self-publish. Who needs a publisher these days?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Speaking of IP, former guest of the show and Silicon Wonderkind will be generating some IP in the near first future because Sam Zaloof has started a chip company with someone, Jim Keller, who I don't know who
Yes,
Jim Keller
Jim
was.
Keller.
Should I know who Jim Keller was?
Well, you should. He designed like some AMD chips and the Apple A4 processor and
Oh,
all sorts of things, I think. So he's a
cool.
huge, like he's probably one of the big names in the chip industry. If you're into the chip industry, yeah, Jim Keller is like,
Well,
you know,
I mean, he was smart to get into business with that legend
yeah,
because
right.
that's
I
Sam.
I
He's
would
going
love to
places.
know how that connection came about. Actually,
I had breakfast with Sam right before I moved out of Chicago, so that's about a year and a half ago now.
yeah,
And he was talking about some of the, or no, I saw him at a conference, I think, too. But I think he was trying to build a fab for fabs. He talked about maybe that's what they're doing
right,
here. I
okay.
don't remember, but anyways, we knew. I mean, we knew this kid was going to do something crazy,
No,
right? I
totally.
mean,
Yep.
so
I did listen to that episode just the other day.
oh,
So
you
yeah,
did? Oh,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, we should see if maybe both of those two would like to come back on. We'll
Yep.
give them a shout. But yeah, so they raised a bunch of money.
They raised 15 million bucks from, and this is the interesting thing: who the money's from.
This is interesting.
It's from
Yeah, yeah,
OpenAI.
I know, right?
Right? Right? So is
Yeah,
there going to be like, why would OpenAI invest? They're not like, invest in something that's not really related to their
right.
industry. So it's not like they're an investment company, right? So why would they do
Also,
that
they're not making any
unless,
money yet, so
no, but unless some OpenAI tech is going to be used in the design of the chips, perhaps.
maybe it'll generate memes and then they'll put that into silicon.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah. I'm all for me.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Anyway.
go
Yep.
Sam, go Jim.
Yep. So yes,
Hopefully
there's a
it's
$15 million
yeah.
investment for a $100 million valuation for this startup, and they're hiring people. So that's the only thing on their website at the moment is some jobs going. So they're hiring people. So if you're a hardware, I think they've got a process engineer, a hardware engineer, or I don't know, software or something. So they're and they're going to be building their own fab equipment where it's not already available.
I've done all those things. I could go work there.
Good.
I've been a process engineer. I've been a hardware engineer.
There
I've
you go.
written
Boom.
some software.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
I'm the perfect. They can't afford me. They can't afford me.
100 to $150,000 for the process engineer, which doesn't sound like much for Silicon Valley. Someone just mentioned this on Twitter. It's
Oh,
like
interesting.
you couldn't even get lunch for $100,000 in San Fran, can you?
I don't know about in the Bay Area, but I do know that process engineers don't get paid a ton because usually they're not. You think about versus a I don't know, like a DevOps engineer, right? Like
Yeah,
someone who's doing deploying large servers and stuff like that.
yeah.
Like there's just not as much demand. It feels like
It's a
there's not as
pretty
many fabs around.
unglamorous industry, right? It's
Yeah,
not a high
yeah.
profile, high
I worked
competition.
in it. I,
Yeah,
honestly, honestly, I think the other thing too is that the most process engineers come from chemical engineering, right? And so
right.
the
Okay.
best ones I knew were chemical engineers, at
Right.
least.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And I think there's just a lot more of them. They don't get paid. Like if you're working in petroleum in the U.S., you get paid really well as a process engineer.
Yep.
But
Oh, you would get more in the chemical industry for driving the truck at the mine that mines the chemicals than you would for actually, See, I'm completely serious. You would get paid more
maybe
for
I don't,
driving the
I don't
truck
know.
at the mine that mines the chemicals.
I mean, there's hazard pay, so
Yeah, well, it's like, yeah, it's a weird world. It's not a equitable world. Let's put it that way.
that's true.
So,
Yeah, yeah. I think it is detached. Like value is that detached from pay in a lot of industries.
mhm.
That's
Yep.
just the way the world works. That's just how the
Yeah.
cookie crumbles, man.
Yep.
And sucks, but
Anyway, they are after. I think you only need like a year or two experience or something like that. So it's not like they're after
yeah.
like some industry veteran process engineer or something. So
Mhm.
yeah, but the interesting thing is that they're supposedly talking about, well, if we can't buy the stuff we need, we're going to make it. And they
Mm.
want to own the entire process
Yeah.
from raw silicon, right up. So yeah.
Dave, it says Atomic Semi on their job listing. It says Atomic Semi is building a small, fast semiconductor fab. It doesn't get much smaller than on the desktop.
It's not going to happen, dude. Still clinging onto that hype, dude.
If it was going to happen, I think it's Sam's aloof. I think Sam is. I've told Sam
Nah.
he's my only shot. So if anyone's going to do it, it's him.
Yep.
But
nah, sorry, dude.
Probably not.
Still stands. I'm happy to give you another 10-year bet. You lost the last one.
Yeah. Okay.
Happy to give it to you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's very, very generous of you. Very generous.
I'm happy to keep extending it every 10 years. It's like
yeah.
it's like fusion, Yeah. It's just not gonna happen, dude.
Yeah.
Dream on. Dream on.
Other things that are dreams and other people who've been on the show in the recent past. So Matt Venn was on the show talking about Silly Whiz, and that is something he worked on with another guest of the show, Uri Shaked, out of Israel. And it is now generally available. So app.sillywiz.com. We will link that in here. You can go and try it out.
And just bam, I'm straight in. Don't have to sign up. It just it is. I've got my Silicon Designer, and I've got like a DRC cross section which shows the vertical. Right. You can see if you've got any DRC errors on your silicon, and it's just there. Yeah. Bam, straight in.
Yeah, you start with presets here. So like, if you're following along at home, if you click on preset, you click inverter. That's right. So you see the different gates here.
What is a skull FET? Oh, it's actually got a skull and crossbones. It's actually a FET made with skull and crossbones.
Uri makes a puzzle with skulls in it, so I think it's got to be something like that.
Right. Yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like the inverter is like a classic thing. You, like Dave said, you can have cross sections here. One thing I didn't mention the day before the show as well, in the upper right corner, there's a link to the lessons, and that goes to basically kind of a walkthrough. How do you think about parasitics? How do you think about how to actually draw capacitors, draw FETs, draw a logic inverter? So building up from scratch as well, because this is even something that I think, this is a level below. When Matt was on the show, he was talking about this. This is a level below how most of the time you're doing this kind of stuff. Usually you're not individually tweaking like an inverter. It's going to generate that for you from Verilog, right? It's going to actually do that for you.
That'd just be a standard drop-in thing right. you would get from the silicon vendor. Right.
Yeah, you get cells and it uses the cells there. But then if you wanted to then go and do an analog design,
then
that's
totally different. You got to tweak it manually. Yep.
Right, and that's basically what's going on here. So then now you can click on something like the input gate. You could modify the width of like the gate. You can change the thickness of the gate as well, and then you can actually see how the curves change and how if you have different pulses coming in, or what does it look like. And it's just like it's amazing. I mean, really, it's just amazing. Yeah,
this is begging for AI. This is begging for ChatGPT support. Like, please make my MOSFET a bit faster, and then it just redraws the geometry to make it faster. Please trade off power consumption for speed. And it just knows how to do that. Right?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting too. So we were just talking about what is process engineering, and like one thing that you would do as a process engineer there is basically you would say you'd design an experiment. You'd say I have a theory that if I change the width of the input gate, right?
Yeah.
Then I think I'm gonna map it from width A to width B, and then you do that, and then you also you do a cross with maybe another theory I'm gonna change the P diffusion depth, and I think that's gonna have this other effect. And then what you do is you kind of run these different things in parallel, and you see what has the most impact from that sort of thing, and that's also what an AI would do if it was doing that sort of thing. But you can do this.
Well, they do have simulators for this sort of thing, right? You can simulate like you don't have to do the physical experiment each time you want to do
this
that.
Is a simulator. This is a simulator.
Yes, but yes. Right, okay.
Yeah. That would be I forget what that command is. Man, it's been a while since I did Spice. Oh, and I told you about it. Remember I told you I downloaded Spice? I know LT Spice on my computer.
Right. Yeah. And it had,
It had like notes from 1999 in there that like
1999.
yeah
That's great.
that Mike
Yeah.
must have put in there.
Yeah. That is great.
Apparently,
Cool.
Mike Englehart, who was on the show way back when, he was at LT Spice. He left ADI when like LT Spice is now part of Analog Devices. Mike's no longer there. He is now releasing some new simulator soon that's independent. Yeah.
Oh, there you
So
go. Wow.
I got another one.
He actually branched his own code, did he? Isn't because it's LT Spice isn't open source, right?
It is not open source, but he was the
Right.
big maintainer of it, and we'll link in that episode as well. That was
So did he write it again from scratch?
I think he did.
Holy
Yeah.
crap.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I remember that episode. I think it was just me. Do you remember if you were on that
I
one?
think it was just you. Yeah, I don't.
I remember.
Yeah.
He said so many software terms. Like I remember, like literally, like having to catch my breath that I was so confused about like what was going on and what he was saying. Like I really.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was tough. My brain hurt afterwards. So. But I will link in the name. It had like a weird name. It was like some like Roman. Like Latin, it was in Latin or something, but there's a new simulator coming. So,
wow,
yeah,
cool bananas.
Yeah. If you download LT Spice.
I was just asking. I can't remember who or where I was asking it, but like, what is the latest? Maybe it was you. We're casually talking about it. What is the latest go-to simulator these days? I think before a show the other week, I think we were.
Yeah, I think we were talking
about it.
And and I said I don't know. I don't.
Yeah, same here.
KiCad has it built in now. It's just okay though. Like that's P-Spice. LT Spice is still, good. Honestly, like if I'm doing something fast, I'm probably going to Falstad just because I love how it animates and stuff. I think that's like
oh yeah, if I'm doing a simulator, I'm just going to one of those web things. And usually I don't want to simulate my whole design. I just want to simulate like a couple of transistors or something. I just want to like a little building block.
That's right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
To Matt and Uri, though, this is I'm very excited about this Silly Wiz thing. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really looks cool. Agreed.
Speaking of, we might as well hop back on that AI train. I heard rumor that you tried to get someone to do your homework for you.
Somebody did do my homework. The bot did my homework.
Yeah.
You know how I've been working on this MacGyver project, I call it, which is a BOM, which looks like a BOME, right. So we don't get demonetized. Well, this isn't monetized anyway. So a bomb. It looks like a bomb. Bomb.
Yeah, right.
It looks like a bomb. It's a bomb countdown timer, right? Hello, NSA, if you're listening.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we just triggered, all we have to do is mention the president in the same sentence and we're going to get flagged at the NSA. Yep. Anyway. All right.
Dave said it.
So I was originally going to do like how to design. Part 3 was going to be how to design it using discrete TTL logic.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was going to show how, okay, you need like 30 chips or something. And then I was going to show how you convert that into a single 8-pin micro, right? And but then I thought, no, why can't I just get AI? It'd be more interesting to get AI to actually see if it can drive this display. Because it's an interesting thing. What I'm trying to do is drive 5 7-segment displays connected to 5 shift registers, right? 7400 series shift registers, 74164s, right? And so it's got a serial clock in, it's got a serial data in. And, so I thought this is like an interesting experiment for ChatGPT AI to see if it can, like, I know that ChatGPT can write code, right? It can write code for almost anything.
Arduino
code for Arduino. Somebody said it can even write code for that Purdue.
Oh, really?
3-set microcontroller. Yeah. Somebody said it even does that. So it just, I don't know, it just trawls GitHub and finds all this code and just magically, learns it, right? So it can do practically any language. It can generate assembler for PIC, I think. Somebody said,
cool.
It can do like.
So like, I do wonder about the depth of that too. Like, so like, as a prompt engineer.
Yes.
One thing that's tough is like, how many like nested statements could you get? Like, I want it to run a timer, but I also want it to do this, and I also want it to do that, and I also want it to do that. Like that feels like that's where it's going to get gummed up as well, because it's just describing all the things you want it to do.
Right. If it's trying to do like a real-time interrupt-driven thing, can it?
Yeah, exactly.
Can it handle that? Right. I don't know, but anyway. So I thought this was an interesting. Like, so I know it can write code. I know it can write Arduino code, no problem. But can I describe a hardware circuit with 7-segment displays and shift registers? Can I understand that and then how to drive that and translate that in, and can I translate that into an English, because it's a language-based processor, right? It only understands
Right.
language, right?
Right, because you wouldn't be, if you were explaining this to me too, you wouldn't want to send me a schematic, right? You wouldn't want to say, oh well, actually pin 5 of chip 1 is tied to pin 7 of
Yeah,
chip
no.
2.
So,
Yeah.
so what I did is I thought about it for like 2 seconds. I didn't even put any effort into it, right? I thought about how can I explain the function of this circuit in a few sentences, right? So you can see it in the video. There's a few sentences I type in, and bam, it got it practically first go. There are 2 bugs in the code that it got. It got a complete newbie mistake where it was decrementing a variable in a loop that it should have made a temporary copy of first and then operated on the temporary variable, right? So it was decrementing the loop value, right? Which was dumb, right? It's just a complete newbie mistake, right? So it made that mistake.
If people are trusting this thing and like trusting it for increasingly interesting and dangerous things, it really scares me that it might be basing anything off of my old code.
Right.
Some of which
Same here.
is available on the internet. So it has consumed my code.
It has. It
It has taken my knowledge and added it to the repository, right?
Gamma Logic trademark, yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy.
So anyway, and the other bug was that it didn't realize that the Arduino had a 16-bit integer and not a 32-bit integer. So I was playing with a 5-digit number that exceeded the integer value of 32,768, right? So it exceeded that. So that's why it actually failed. It actually compiled fine, but there were 2 bugs that made it didn't work. And it did ultimately require a human, i.e. me, to fix those bugs. But geez, it was I couldn't believe that it actually understood the function of shift registers. It understood the mapping of 7-segment displays. It got the mapping all correct. I would like to think that's because of my prompt engineering skills, and I actually described it in an adequate detail. I'm sure that played a role. But it understood that a 7-segment display, and understood that it had a decimal point, and it understood that it had to generate a routine to map all of these segments to the digits, and then it needed to shift them out in the correct order, in the correct thing. And it was just, bam, it nailed all that. So it actually understood hardware and then translated it into software to drive the hardware. It's really quite something. This is different to just writing code.
Here's an interesting question. I mean, that is impressive. Like, yeah. Both on the prompt side, like that's non-trivial, and so I'm excited to watch this. Actually, here's a question for you: if you hired another helper like David too, and he came up and he said, "I wrote this code and it works," and then a week later he's like, "You find a bug," and then he blamed it on. I'm not saying David too. I'm going to say Bobby McGee. Bobby McGee here is the new person. And then later he said, "Actually, it was ChatGPT. It wasn't me." How would you feel about that?
Oh, to find out my employee used ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing, right?
I wouldn't care. I'm paying them to do a job. Can you get the job done? I don't care which tools I kind of do care which tools you use.
Right.
And there is some care there, but ultimately, bottom line is, can you get the job done? Whether or not you're a genius who codes it in assembler, or whether or not you're somebody who is really great skilled at using ChatGPT. Ultimately, engineering is about getting a task done.
Is solving the problem. I totally agree. I think the real thing is like, I'm not sure I trust the thing enough, and now you're basically putting ghosts into a machine as well, right? Like, so like, what if they're not good enough to find a bug, right? You know what I mean?
Like, that is the thing. The ChatGPT did find the bug with the integer, but only because I prompted it. Like, I knew it was a bug and I prompted it that, hey, do you think something's wrong here? And then it rechecked it. So it was like, so it required, without that human knowing that the bug was there, it would not have solved that, right? And then
I don't know. It's just an interesting like ethical.
And the interesting part about this, right? It really tries to help you, right? So even if somebody, I asked this on Twitter, is there a word for this? And somebody said bot-splaining. Right? Which I think is a pretty good term, right? So I think I'm going to use that from now on. Bot-splaining.
Yeah,
what funny. It does is
title.
the ChatGPT will bend over backwards, like if you tell it it's, you're wrong here, can you
You're
fix
wrong.
it? It'll bend over
Right.
backwards
It'll start
to
lying.
try and fix it. Yeah, it'll
Yeah.
actually modify stuff that is correct and then get
Yeah.
more and more confused. It starts hallucinating issues, right? Seriously, the chat
Yeah.
it starts that's the best description. It starts
Yeah.
hallucinating these issues and solving problems, and you can see it in my video. It gets so completely muddled, it thought the fault. I kept badgering it, saying, like there's a problem here. Can you fix it? And then it starts going, imagining that there's hallucinating that there's a fault in the routine, that there's nothing wrong with that routine, right? And so it
Huh.
starts making changes to that routine, and it goes down that rabbit hole of
Huh.
it really, rather than actually defend itself and go, no, I'm right. You
I'm a
must be,
computer. You're an idiot.
yeah, exactly. No, it doesn't do that.
Yeah.
It does not
Huh.
do that. It
Huh.
bends over backwards, and it'll get completely muddled up its own clacker trying to find, trying to solve your issue for you. It's too helpful, right?
Yeah.
To its own
Huh.
detriment, and to your detriment too, because you're trying to thing. But yeah, ultimately, like, I'm amazed at what it did, but ultimately it did require my
Hmm.
human skill and knowledge of the code to
All
actually
right.
fix it.
So we get another week or two before
Oh yeah,
our jobs are gone.
before it learns that,
Yeah.
I should have given it like a tick to say,
I d-
yeah, you
I
solved
I
that.
do think, I think about like this kind of stuff, and people always are like, "Oh, but what about the jobs that are?" I'm like, "Oh man, bring it on!" Like I just need so much help. I just,
Right.
you know,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
so no, like it's not going to take away jobs. It's just no, I see it as another valuable tool,
yeah,
and it's incredible.
augmenting.
Like
Yep.
especially for generating tedious stuff. Like my example of mapping the 7 segments to the displays, it got all that right. Right. That's a tedious part of programming that I hate, is like mapping stuff. If you've got a huge
Yeah.
bitmap display you need to map things into and stuff like that. That's kind of like the tedious work that
Yeah.
is boring. If you can get the AI to just generate and do the monotonous stuff, then it's great.
Yeah.
But I'll
Bring it
tell you
on.
something
Bring it
more
on.
interesting, and after this, I'll probably shoot a video on it. I didn't shoot my reaction last night, but because I did it late last night, I got in there and because it keeps the chat that you've previously got, right? Because you can build on your existing chat with it. So it keeps that.
Hmm.
Even when you log out, you log back in, it's all got my existing chat there, so I can pick up where I left off. So I asked it, I said something along the lines of, imagine that you're a digital electronics designer, right? So I told it, imagine you're a digital electronics designer. Can you explain how I can make this same code with 7400 series logic, right? Because that was going to be my next video, is how to do the
Oh,
same
yeah.
function using 7400 series logic.
Like how to spit out so not running Arduino now, and you really are having to do your homework here, huh?
Not running on Arduino, but use the existing stuff I've told it to,
Yeah.
and it started like it thought it was the longest pause I've ever had on Chat GPT, right? It sat there for like
Huh.
a good 20 seconds before it, started to spit it out. But then it said, certainly, let me explain how to do this. I will have to. Oh no, I
Hmm.
can't. I can't give you the thing right now.
No,
But
that's
yeah,
okay.
no,
I'll watch the video when it comes out.
yeah,
This is
it
it's
it
interesting.
basically went through step by step. You need, and then it gave me a bomb. It gave me a bill of materials. You need 5 74HC595s. You need X number of 10K resistors. You need these. You need two 20 ohm resistors for the dropper. It knew and figured out that the 7-segment displays were common cathode.
Based on part number or no?
I don't know if it figured that out or whether or not it assumed that, because I never
Yeah.
used the term common cathode in my previous descriptions of it. So I
Yeah.
don't know if it assumed it or it figured that out, that it needed common cathode displays. And then, so it gave me a bill of materials. Then it explained that I needed a 555 timer to generate the clock. Then it gave me the formula for the 555 timer to generate the 1 hertz period signal. Then it told me I needed an inverted clock using NAND gates, for one for latching the data and one for shifting the data, right? And I haven't drawn it up yet, but I think it's kind of wrong. Like I guarantee it's wrong, right? But the fact that it did this is
Yeah.
just stunning.
Like
It's just,
index the Hackaday comments, and it's like, well, you could have done this with the 555
yeah,
timer.
and it gave me a bill of materials, and then explained in monotonous detail, and then it ran out of puff, right? And then I said, please continue, and then it continued. It needed like a part 2 to explain all this stuff. And I was just, even though it's not correct, like, there's lots of gobbledygook in there, right? That is not technically correct, right? That would not solve the actual problem.
If there's one thing Dave can really appreciate, it's things that ramble on.
Yes, exactly. But no, but I was so
Mm.
impressed that it rambled on. And
Yeah,
once
yeah,
again, it is the pleasing nature. Like the AI tries to please you, and
yeah.
even though it's wrong, it's the fact that it like, but a lot. I don't know what percentage of it is actually right. Like, but there's a lot of stuff that helps you. Yes, you need these registers, and and then it said, oh well, the how you do the counter is based on how you want to implement, and you can use several 7400 series logic chips to actually do this. That's up to you to decide. And I can probably continue the chat and say, well, can you
Mm.
recommend a counter chip to do this? And like, so I'm probably going to do that after this.
Yeah, it's interesting thinking about it
It's
too, where it's
amazing.
like if it's gonna put in opinion and tell you like, oh, I don't want to operate like that too. If
Yeah.
it would be like, you really want to be doing this with 74 series logic. This is
Right,
just
right. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. If it threw
kind of
really? Are
old,
you sure you want to
kind
do
of
this?
yeah, yeah.
This is
Come on,
very 1980s, like
yeah,
kind of,
right. I have a lot
yeah.
of data about this, but
But are you
yeah,
sure you want to do it? Yeah.
right,
It'd be
right.
much easier to use an 8-pin micro to do this.
Yeah, right.
Like, actually, I could ask it that. Which is the most efficient way to do this? Using a microcontroller or using 7400 series logic?
Hmm,
To see what it says. But I'm
there
just
you go.
stunned that it went into so much detail, even if the detail is not, only 50% correct. The fact that it could do it, you'll be amazed when I show you the printout that
Yeah, yeah.
it gave me. It's just, you know, yep. Even though it's wrong, I don't care. I'm just like stunned at the technology. Wow, just wow. Yep, blown away.
We are already past an hour, so I feel like we should go into link mode here.
There you go. Oh, there you
Let's
go.
go. Here we go, link mode. So Andreas Spies, past guest of the show as well. Really cool video actually about, we're talking at the top about connecting your stuff over IoT. This is a thing
Mhm.
called Open MQTT Gateway, where basically, those like weather stations are like 433 megahertz.
Yep.
This is basically like it's a converter that you can program directly on an ESP32 that actually kind of like snips for packets from sensors you and your neighbors might have, and then it can just
All right.
push them up to the network. Like
Oh
super
yeah.
cool. Like yeah.
Nice.
So going and then like there's all this stuff about like Home Assistant. Have you ever done Home Assistant stuff?
I do have a system,
Oh, you do. Okay.
but it's not very good. Yeah, it's the Z Wave system. It's a Z Wave.
No, Home Assistant is a software package.
Oh right, no, I don't.
Yeah.
No
So there's
idea.
like this open source. I think I'm saying it right. I always get there's like an Apple one, and then there's the open source one, and I always get those confused. I think it's right though. I think Home Assistant is, and basically it's like you should check it out. It's actually pretty cool because like you just kind of generate these things called YAML files, and basically you say like, oh, actually this thing is going to be hooked up to a sensor. Again,
Mm,
another thing that AI
no,
might be
no,
interested in talking
I
about.
I don't want to automate my home with YAML files. No,
No.
no,
It's not that. It's basically it generates code for the ESP32. So you say like, oh, I have a this type of sensor, and it's going to be hooked up to these pins of the ESP32, and
yep.
then it just writes the code for you. Basically, that's all you have to
All
do is
right.
just
Okay.
like basically
Right.
hook those things together, and you're done.
Cool.
And then Home Assistant like helps you to kind of create sensor networks in your home that if you wanted to do that sort of thing.
Got it. All right.
Very cool stuff. What else is on the list? Lots of great links again, thanks to Unmanaged
Yes. Yes, there
615,
is. Yeah.
like usual.
He just puts everything on there. Crazy.
Just yeah, champ.
Which gets mirrored to our Amp Hour Twitter account, by the way. So if you
That's right.
want these,
Yep,
it's handy to follow the Amp Hour Twitter account because we don't tweet
that's right.
anything apart from the show episodes, and there's an
That's right.
automated thingo that if you post something on the Reddit, then that link automatically goes over to the Twitter account. So you don't even have to use Reddit to follow the links. So it's just handy.
Yeah,
These links just pop up.
yeah,
Yep,
yep.
yep. It's really good.
KiCad 7 is released. That's a big one. So new year, I'm trying to say KiCad more instead of KiCad. I'm trying to do it, Dave. And yeah, it's great. I mean, I did a video at the end of last year with the team where we kind of going over stuff that's available. The big one that I think is actually really important for companies adopting it is there's actually that database. You can actually build a part database for yourself now instead of like doing it through individual files. And so you think about like revision controlling it, but then also like having multiple inputs into that database and being able to have a librarian that that works. You could really start to build out some serious infrastructure. And another one that a lot of people like, but I don't personally, you might like this sort of thing. There's like scalable bitmaps that you can pull into the layout now. So say you wanted to go and
cool.
recreate an old PCB and without any of the schematic symbols, you basically just pull it into the bitmap layout and then you connect it all up, basically by tracing over top of these of the what the board looks like.
Oh, nice. Okay. Oh, so you can use it as a template, a tracing template.
That's right. Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Nice. Yep.
Yeah. That's like, and again, that's like some people, like, depending on what kind of work you're doing, like some people are doing like vintage electronics and that is critical.
Yeah.
But I don't use that sort of thing.
You could also take a photo of a board and then a photo of the traces on the board, and then you could reverse, and then you could convert that into a new file. Yeah. Nice.
Yep. Yeah. So lots of great, really, really great stuff in the new version. They delivered on the promise and they actually released a version on time. And I think by next January, there will be an 8.0, which is pretty crazy.
Awesome.
What else? Anything else you see on the list? There's other, like I said, a lot of stuff here.
There's tons of stuff, but no, we'd have to talk about it.
There's a remastered version of the Mother of All Demos. I think we've talked about that on the show before.
Really? Okay. Yes, we have talked about the Mother of All Demos. Douglas Engelhardt.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Legend. Absolute legend. That was, when I was talking about the Xerox Park book that I loved, that was in there. I think we probably talked about it then at least.
Yep.
Among other times. Yeah. So cool. Unbelievable. Yeah, I think that's it. People can go check out the subreddit.
Or follow it on Twitter.
That's right. All right.
We're done.
That's all for me. Yeah.
Have a good week, man. Maybe, will AI take our jobs by next week?
Yeah. We can only hope.
No. Right. Well, the voice, the AI voice thing's getting really good. It's got so much material it can learn from. It's all public. It can learn our voices. It can simulate voices.
Yeah, but can it bring the witty repartee that we bring to the show every single week, Dave? I don't think a computer can do that yet.
Maybe I can try it. Yeah. Because Machiavelli's Underbelly, who's a Twitter user, that's his Twitter name.
Sure.
He's like an AI expert, and he generates all these AI videos of well-known people like saying things, and it's absolutely amazing. Maybe we can get him to sort of simulate our voice and make us say something.
I would love it.
Yeah. Maybe I
want to think so I don't have to record the intro each week. I could just type it in.
You can just type it in.
That'd be great.
Right.
Especially like when I travel.
The intro. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
All right. I'll contact him on Twitter and see if he wants to see if he can generate our voices to make us say anything. Yep. Yeah. Because all our stuff's out there. We can't stop it. Like it's going to troll and troll. It's going to troll and troll our previous episodes, and it's going to learn. And
only 621 of them plus.
All right. Catch you next time.
See ya.